Hello, my name is Randy Evans, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to serve as the 23rd United States Ambassador to the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. We are here at the Luxembourg American Cemetery in Ham, Luxembourg, where over 5,000 members of the United States Armed Services rest in peace. General George S. Patton is here with us, just a short distance from the city of Luxembourg, which served as the headquarters for his Third Army during the Second World War. This day, May 8, 75 years ago, served as a brief moment of reflection for a war embroiled in a global war that threatened the survival of life as we had known it. It is thus only appropriate on this day we too take a moment to reflect as we, in some ways, find ourselves again in a war to defeat an enemy so that the generations that follow us can enjoy fully the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we have all enjoyed. 75 years ago on this day, many came together around the world to rejoice in Nazi Germany's unconditional surrender yesterday, May 7th. Yet the war was far from over. Indeed, the end of the war was still months away, and the political, societal, social, and economic cost of the Second World War would take generations to fully recover. But May 8, 1945 was nonetheless an important moment, a critical time to just take note of the 6 years of conflict, costing millions of lives, destroying homes, families, and communities, and threatening our very way of life. Although it was Victory in Europe Day, in reality, it was far from Victory in the World Day, or even just a celebratory victory, especially for those who had lost so much. Many rest here in this cemetery, having lost their lives before even knowing the outcome of the war in which they had fought, that had cost them their lives and their futures. Others, like my wife Linda's uncle Richard LaFrance, was wounded shortly before VE Day and returned to America blind to live a life very different than the one he had planned with his wife Betty Lou. He was a first lieutenant working a tank battalion. For his sacrifice, he received the Bronze Star, 3 battle stars, and a Purple Heart. But none of these distinguished decorations brought back his sight. Yet, he went on to make the most of his life with 4 beautiful children and serving as a mentor and athletic trainer to many fine young athletes at Cornell University in upstate New York. 2 of his 714th Tank Battalion mates were not so fortunate. They remain here with me, buried side by side at our cemetery. Yet, on May 8, 1945, with the war raging on, the pain of their lost lives and many more still fresh, and the many wounds and scars that war leaves behind, there remained reason to pause, to recognize that something important for us all had happened. The Nazis had thrown everything they had at us, and we persevered. We never gave up. It's a little like that today, and it's why I felt it was so important to take this moment to do the same, to pause for a moment bigger than all of us. You know, at 3 p.m. on VE Day, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill announced on a national radio broadcast the Nazi surrender, ending the war in Europe. But as Prime Minister Churchill did so, he was very careful to note that the war was far from over and many challenges still lie ahead. He said this: "We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing, but let us not forget for a moment the toil and efforts that lie ahead." Like those 75 years ago, it is truly impossible to celebrate amidst such pain, suffering, and death. But to ignore the sacrifice as we begin to finish that which we began, to defeat this virus, the coronavirus, or COVID-19, to liberate the world from the scourge, would be to ignore just how far we have come and how much we have sacrificed. Thanks to the courage of so many and the risk assumed and sacrifices made by those on the healthcare front line, especially doctors, nurses, essential workers, and so many, many more, we are indeed making progress as we flatten the curve and advance toward a cure or vaccine. As we push forward toward the return of a safe life, with the liberty for us all to enjoy life and the unfettered right to pursue happiness, we can now, as others did 75 years ago, only pause to recognize how far we have come, but also how far we must still go. Just like these men around me, when they made the ultimate sacrifice, none of us know now how this will all end. But end it must, and end it will. And when it does, let us look back on this day as the day when we took measure, both of what prior generations had done and the sacrifices we ourselves have made to achieve our own victory over the invisible enemy that threatens us today. Like those from the generations here with me, we must ourselves be determined, disciplined, and unrelenting in our cause. And we must never forget the sacrifices of them or of those today. On behalf of the people of the United States and as the ambassador to the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, all I ask is that we take measure of where we have been, where we are, and where we are going. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May God bless you and your family, the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, and my home, the United States of America. Thank you.